comment that you'd like to make to the public, we have a sign-up sheet. We'll do it in just a moment. So again, welcome. Can I have roll call, please?
Michael Hellman.
Here.
Scott Pennell.
Here.
Susie Stokes. Here. Bob Boland.
Here.
John Curtis.
Here. Please stand with us for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Council, we have an agenda in front of us tonight. I know no meeting agenda changes. So do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda for October 14th, 2019.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Scott and Bob, and discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll move down. Council, do we feel that anybody has conflict of interest tonight?
Yes, I do on item 12, planning and community development. I'll recuse myself.
Okay. Bob will introduce himself on that. All right. Minutes. Council, we had a chance to read through them, check for everything. Do I have a motion?
I will approve the minutes from September 23rd, 2018.
Do I have a second? Discussion. They look pretty good. Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. We'll move down to the bills. Do I have a motion?
I will approve the bills to October 14th, 2019.
Do I have a second? Second. Motion and seconds on the table. Discussion. Is there anything you see in there that you'd like to ask about? All right, anything, council? Last chance. Roll call.
Michael Hellman.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Susie Stokes. Yes. Bob Boland.
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Right, bills. Do I have any unscheduled public, I don't have any unscheduled, do I have any public comment? Or unscheduled public comment? Margie Mullen? State your name, where you reside, please.
Margie Marlin, 633 Pines Hill. Thank you for taking the time to come about some. I'm up here tonight a little uncomfortable, but I need to say this, and so I am not for or against this project. I might even be for this project, but I understand that on the agenda you'll be talking about putting the cement footers in. And my concern is more about the process and not having a plan in place before you go ahead and okay a big project like that. And so I just want to come up and say that as a citizen in this community and with all the changes we're looking at, I feel like you're really considering things when you know exactly where you're going. And I feel that Mary Jane probably is really organized and has this together. And you're, like I said, I'm not against it. I just feel like things should follow a procedure so that we can all be on board with what's going on. That's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Does it make sense? Okay.
Steve Hendricks.
I was just so if there's a question, I can answer the question from the group.
I'm sorry?
That's just so if there's a question, I can answer the question, representing town members from Mary Jane's group.
I think, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just public comment. If you'd like to just come up and say what you'd like to say, well, within reason, of course.
Yeah.
Steve Ernest from North Colorado. It seems that if the protocol's been followed, it doesn't do anybody any good to hold up the project. Because from what I understand, that the Argo project would like to move forward, and there might be some hesitance to that. That's all I know. Is that right?
We are moving, we want to move forward.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Okay, we will move down, because I know there's going to be some questions from council. We're going to move down to planning and community development.
I will.
Almost kind of flip those comments just right behind you here. Okay. Thank you. Alan Tiefenbach, Community Development Plan with the City of Idaho Springs. Let's give a little background because I think there are some very good comments and concerns. So in June of this year, the member council, you approved a planned development for the Argo and Virginia Canyon Mountain Park. This planned development did numerous things. One of the things that it did was it allowed by zoning a gondola operation. There's numerous different benefits of the gondola. The city has been working with the Argo with a development agreement, and part of what this has required is some access easements. Remember a couple of weeks ago you approved the access easement. The reason why we had to do an access easement versus a lease or something like that is because the city is pursuing grant funding to build these trails. And in order to get that grant funding, Colorado Parks and Wildlife requires us to have permanent access. On to the next step, with the rezoning being done, the Argo has been working on what is called the final development plan. And the final development plan is required prior to any building permit. In the plan development document, the zoning, it talks about before the gondola operation can happen and before the building permit is issued, that this final development plan has been approved. The applicant has been moving forward with this project. Where they got snagged up is that they're working with a company called Leitner Palmer, and this is they're one of the few, I guess, companies that builds gondolas. And the applicant wants to have the gondola coming up, like running by the summer or late fall, if I have that correct. However, Leitner Palmer is coming into the ski season, in order for the applicant to be able to work on the gondola this year, Leitner Palmer has to come in and pour the foundations first, and these foundations have to cure for some amount of time, like months, before they can actually put in the gondola towers. If they don't do this, then the applicant will be looking at next spring until they can actually start work, before they can even begin the first processes on the gondola. As they've been moving forward on the final development plan, which is the entire thing about architectural elevations and all this, they've been doing a lot of different things, including engineering. They're working on their traffic study, they're working on their parking study, they're working on their geotech and all their geology. But in the meantime, while they're working on that, they want to pour these foundations. Now, staff had some apprehension about that because the process is a little different. We haven't dealt with, not only have we not dealt with gondolas before, but we really haven't dealt with this kind of process before. So there's been a lot of discussion. One of the concerns that staff had was because of the size of this project, we wanted to make sure that there was some level of public review and that the city council were the final decision maker. One of the things that's important to mention is that a building permit is what triggers the final development plan. A building permit. They do not have to get a building permit to pour this concrete foundation. One of the reasons why is actually this is reviewed through somebody called the Colorado Tramway Authority, which is a department under the state of Colorado. So they supersede the city. They'll come in and they'll look at the engineering and the geology and how the slope works, and they issue the permits. As they move forward for the rest of the gondola, then they would be having to work with the city, which would come to a final development plan and come through you. However, like I said, the city wasn't real comfortable with just telling them move forward working with the Tramway Authority. We wanted to make sure that there was some level of public review, that the Planning Commission could look at this, and that the City Council ultimately made this decision. So as we talked to the city attorney and the Argo team struck an agreement where there would be a development agreement. And there was sort of two significant things that staff had concerns with. The first one was that there needed to be some kind of approval through the City Council and a level of public review. The second thing that staff had significant concerns about is we did not want the decision makers to feel like they were boxed in if they let the Argo go ahead with this project, and then later we didn't want them to feel like then they were obligated to have to approve it. That we wanted to make sure that that the council was comfortable with approving something and that the Argo knew that this is a risk that they'll have to take. If there's something that happens later in the future and for some reason there's issues with the final development plan, or it's not approved right away, or the alignment isn't right, the Argo team understands this. So the development agreement that you got says that the city is allowing the Argo team to go ahead and pour two foundations. One of them would be at the bottom near Riverside Drive, and the other would be at the top. I apologize, this is kind of a small drawing, but here is the little terminal here, and you can see it up on the top, and the Argo, I can't even see it, but I think the Argo building, let me look at this, am I right? Yeah, Argo building, where did my little, just lost my pointer. It's not showing up. Sorry, there it is. In this, thank you. In this location here. So the development, and just to kind of show the.
Excuse me. Please hold down the conversation. Sorry. Thank you.
So just to give you an idea of exactly what they're talking about, what's being proposed tonight is this little concrete, well, not little, this big concrete thing here. It's about 20 feet.
What's the total dimensions?
It's about 23 feet high. So it's
Wide, width?
Give me a second.
Travis can tell you if you want.
About 5 feet wide.
5 feet wide?
Yeah, and the length is
There's two parts, one of about 14 feet. Yeah, there's some
so
schematics
15
on the
feet,
next-
is that right?
Yeah, there's schematics on the next page. Correct.
Let's see.
Just zoom on there.
Hold on a second. Talking about, I can't read that. It looks like it's about 15 feet. Is that right, Travis?
That's about right, yes.
Yeah, it's kind of blurry. It looks like about so 15 feet long, 25 feet high, about 6 feet wide. I think it's important to note to you, council, that what you're approving, if you're approving this, or what you're considering tonight, the understanding that the applicant has is that, again, if something happens with this project where it is not either approved by the council or the planning commission has concerns with it for any reason, the applicant knows that at their risk, they will have to remove these foundations and they will have to restore the ground back to a natural condition. That was in general basically what staff said was the only way we would support going forward with this. Is that you can do it, it's at your risk, but if it doesn't work, you pull those things out again, restore the ground, and move on.
And you put it at 2 year?
Yeah, right. So this came to the council at a work. So first, I'll get to that. So we went to planning commission earlier this month, first Wednesday this month, and we brought this to planning commission as a public hearing item, and sort of in retrospect, we probably should not have done that because there wasn't really a motion that the planning commission was making public hearing. Overall, they didn't have a lot of comments except for similar to what Ms. Marlin said. They had some concerns about moving forward and whether this was moving ahead too early in the process and what the process would be and whether or not this would be in the public interest letting them move forward with this project. This came to council last week, and council's concern was about the timeline. How long do they have to put this foundation in? What the council decided at the work session was 2 years. We talked about that, and the council was agreeable to 2 years with the possibility that the council can extend that timeline if they need to. That went back to our attorney, who talked to their attorney, and they drafted a revised agreement. And the agreement in front of you tonight then says that from the time of approval that they have 2 years to begin the construction of the gondola, have the final development plan. Otherwise, they'll go back to having to remove the concrete footers and restore the ground back to a natural condition. So much of the design of the project, the towers, the gondola, the terminals, all that stuff is still in the design. From a discussion that I had with the applicants today, it looks like we're going to be trying to come in somewhere around January to the council to have the final development plan, late January. So you should expect to see that within the next couple of months. But at this point, if they don't pour, according to the applicant, if they don't pour the foundations, that costs them a whole year. Any questions?
How visible, the one down at the Argo, you're gonna see, the one up on top, are you gonna be able to see it from the highway or from town?
I think it's pretty unlikely you're going to see it because of all the trees there. They're going to do what's called surgical tree removal. That was one of the other things I was concerned about, is whether they were going to clear cut a line right up the mountain, which they're not at this point. But they will have to remove some number of trees. But way up there at the top, I'm not even sure if you can see that standing at the ground where they're going to. You can? You're nodding?
No,
Yeah, I'm not sure, just because of the topography. It goes up into Rosa Gulch and then it comes up into the back. I don't even think you'll be able to see that from the ground. You might be able to see it from the highway, but what you're talking about is a concrete foundation that's mostly done through osmosis.
Well, are you use colored concrete to blend it into the landscape?
I'll defer that to the applicant, sir. I'm sure they could do it with whatever color you like.
Well, I just wanted to blend in.
This is the color they've shown me here. I'll leave that up to them if they want to
I'll
describe
let you
that to
answer
you,
that,
sir.
Travis.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The upper landing terminal is actually going to be at grade, so it's really going to be completely invisible from anywhere unless you're really right on top of it. It's the lower landing that needed to be elevated, which is why the concrete is visible down there at the bottom. But up at the top, you will no way you would be able to see it from anywhere except for immediately adjacent to it.
Thank you, Travis. Do you have more presentation?
No, sir. No, sir. I can defer to the Argo if you'd like for them to do it.
We'll do that under questions.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a motion. We're going to have some discussion. So I have a motion.
Move to approve the public-private development agreement number 2 between the city, Mary Jane Lovely, and Argo Holdings LLC concerning the placement of gondola foundations, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the same.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Right now, council, we're gonna have some discussion. If you have some questions for the Argo Holdings architects or designers or engineers, we'll allow that tonight.
I do.
Okay, so you want to talk amongst us first?
Well, I just have a question for either Travis or Brian. If we refer to Lake Rapama, what is the projected completion date for the gondola if it commences on the current schedule?
There, please.
Yeah, you want to do every quarter.
Hello, Travis.
I'll follow you.
Brian McFarland, Hickory County, and we start construction in November. They would have this gondola operational next June.
So in our discussion, our work session the other day, we all had some concern about one, the type of what they're wanting to do, and I understand Margie's concern is, and would this trigger us as council already? Is this basically already saying we approved this project? And we all said absolutely not. It has to go through the process, go to the city planning commission before it's accepted. And we would not accept the responsibility. Of course, we didn't want something that was 25 feet high, 15 feet wide, down at the Argo or on top of the mountain. This will actually be on city land or on Mary Jane Lovely land.
Both.
So it'll be on part of both. Yes.
Currently, there's some weirdness with the right-of-way, if you remember, sir. Where Riverside is actually built is on their property. And where Riverside actually is doesn't have
I'm
it.
talking about up top.
Oh, up at top, this will be all on their, sorry, I didn't understand, but that's all on their property, none of that would,
No.
wait, no. The top foundation would be on, use area
For the foundations.
B,
The terminal
Which is-
foundation is on.
which is on city property all the way to the top.
Yes.
And of course, we don't want something like that. And I thought that with the agreement and the that the Argo would be responsible and take all the risks on something like this. I can't imagine how much something like this would cost, but we talked about the reason that we wanted to put a time limit on it. We didn't want this done ahead of time and left there forever. I also, when we did talk about understanding that, the delay and delaying for a year, money is time is money. And when we talked about this, I think they all felt pretty comfortable with kind of what they're proposing and that they had to bring it to us.
Can I join them out
So,
there?
I have a question for the developer. I know a driving force on this is the hiking and bike path. If that were to fall through, are you still planning on putting the gondola in place?
We're driving it, we're helping drive it. If the city can't, one of the things that people don't realize is that the gondola construction, and once it's in operation, and that's one of the reasons we want to make it happen, is that we will be throwing off a revenue stream to the city for construction, trail construction, maintenance, and parking. So working with Combat and other nonprofit, other people in the state, our goal is to work to get a trail from the top to the bottom and not wait for the grants all the time.
The current grant,
If that makes sense.
the current grant program just allows for one trail, a hike up and bike up, but not a bike down. It's really just one trail initially. Which is
Halfway up.
Halfway up, right?
Halfway up.
So we're actually walking the mountain with Comba
And Tony
and Tony
Boone.
Boone on Thursday this week to see what we can do to really create a more critical mass of trails concurrent with the opening of the gondola. So you have the park expedited in terms of getting those trails open to the community sooner than later.
So you got some private funding for all those
We're working on that. Yeah, from various sources, yes.
Like it.
I don't feel like you'd be throwing this money at those foundations if you weren't confident in something happening.
The gondola will still operate without the trail system, but obviously we all want the trail system to be there.
And I think to address process a little bit, we first presented to City Council on the gondola in May of 2018. And we actually presented on the Argo project, and putting this up combined with what the city trails are doing and the win-win-win. In September of 2018, Argo Holdings and the city signed a memorandum of understanding, agreeing that we're going to work on the trails and the gondola together because this was a community benefit. That was 13, 14 months ago now. So now we've gone through all these processes, and the window of opportunity for the city and for us is that Lightner Palma can build this out of their construction season. If we have to wait till next summer, we have to wait till next fall, because they're under full construction at all these ski areas with lifts. So we've got a window of opportunity with them that we can have their attention this winter to build it. And we can be generating revenue next summer. And it's, you know, it's a win-win for everyone in my opinion.
And Alan mentioned that the FDP will be coming before council in January, but we're submitting November 27th. So we're really pushing our design team to flesh out.
Not on Thanksgiving, you don't.
We're just submitting the
That happened to me last year. Don't do that again.
We're pushing hard to get it in.
I would just also say that we are looking forward to the process and engaging the community. We're getting ready to schedule our public meeting when we really can share and also listen to the community about what they think this should be, and really studying the impacts and having that dialogue. But in the meantime, the ownership, we're willing to take the risk because of the window, the tight schedule, and because we're excited about the project. We're excited to share it with you all in the public forum and due process. So this is just one step along the way, and we really do look forward to engaging and opening it up and following the process that's been set forth.
And just one other thing, we've heard rumblings about the Argo Mill. In our budget for the gondola opening, we have substantial funding to make the Argo Mill be able to sustain like 4 times the visitation it's getting now and have this amazing heritage tourism site along with the outdoor recreation, along with everything else. So we're budgeting for what we think is the passion of the whole place.
Okay, council, any more questions, discussion?
Just a note that I understand in my absence that the city attorney received the initial document in its inception and has made changes to the agreement, and so it's been through the city attorney.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, council, Last chance for questions. And we will roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Chrissy Stokes,
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, we will move down to resolutions. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve resolution number 15, 2019, a resolution setting the official dates for the celebration of holidays for the city in 2020.
Do I have a second? Discussion.
When you get Bob back?
I say we should add Columbus Day to the list.
Yes, apologies.
Oh, we wouldn't be there tonight, right? Yeah, we don't bother to take credit.
I just usually know it's Tuesday, you know. Those ones.
John, did they answer your question about coloring the
What's that?
concrete? Did they answer your question about coloring the concrete?
No.
Bob, we've got a motion on the table for the acceptance of the holidays for the city.
Okay.
A motion and a second on the table. Discussion. Any discussion, Bob? Any
No,
questions?
I looked over the list, it looks pretty standard.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will move down to our ordinance readings. 18, ordinance 18, do I have a motion?
Ordinance number 18, series 2019, an ordinance adopting the Federal Emergency Management Agency, parentheses, FEMA flood insurance study and flood insurance rate map for Clear Creek County, Colorado, and incorporated areas dated December 20th, 2019, and making conforming amendment to section 23-3 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Necessity to do this going forward, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to read the great study, it's available in City
It's
Hall.
only 1,008 pages long.
Can we, is there any way to launch that digitally? I mean, there is. I think it would be helpful if people's insurance rates over the next 36 months could be impacted as a result of any changes in the study.
If the ordinance becomes law, it would be good to put it on the website.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Michael Hillman?
Yes.
Scott Mandel?
Yes.
Chrissy Stokes?
Yes.
Bob Bowman?
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
Motion passes. We'll move to our next ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 19, series 2019, an ordinance adopting by reference amended chapter 21 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code concerning land development regulations.
Do I have a second?
Okay.
Discussion.
Will we receive the outline for all of these, please?
Well,
That's
that's why I was
second
looking
reading.
for Alan. I'm sorry?
A second reading.
Thank
Second
you.
reading. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Michael Hillman?
Yes.
Scott Mandel?
Yes.
Chrissy Stokes?
Yes.
Bob Bowman?
Yes.
John Curtis.
Yes.
All right, we'll move down to ordinance second reading. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 16, series 2019, an ordinance amending paragraph 9-116, subsection 1B of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code concerning vendor cart size restrictions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Michael Hillman?
Yes.
Scott Mandel?
Yes.
Chrissy Stokes?
Yes.
Bob Bowman?
Yes.
John Curtis.
No.
All right. And we will go down to staff reports, city administrator, and motion passes. City administrator.
Mayor and council, you have my report with 2 requests for action, please.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Motion to appoint the following 11 people to the parking task force. Austin. Carol with us. Deborah B. Palmer, George Martin, Greg.
Just say Greg.
Huh?
Greg down.
Greg D.
Big D works.
Jim Thomas, Marco Tuplet,
Marcel. Mitch Houston,
All these people.
Nelson Fugate, Tommy,
You missed Jerry Saunders.
See,
and
so
Jay Sanders. Yes.
I'm gross.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. So what we did is when we put this out for letters of interest, we had 11 responses. 8 responses? 8 responses, and then we had 3 other names. One of them I haven't even talked to, but I thought they would be good on this committee. So we added, I think, 3, so we have an 11. I feel that we got a nice diverse group here, residents, business owners, property owners. So I think this will be a good task force group to bring back recommendations to the council for
Beautifully balanced, really.
Yeah.
Great.
Good. So, any other questions or discussions?
Thanks to the people that volunteered.
Absolutely. If you're here tonight, thank you so much. Roll call.
Michael Hillman.
Yes.
Jeff Knell.
Yes.
Tracy Stokes.
Yes.
Bob Boland.
Yes.
Jack Curtis.
Yes, sorry about that, people. Terrible pronouncing names.
Names are tough. All right, do I have a motion for our second action item?
Move to approve and authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1 regarding the contract with American Civil Contractors, ACC, for West Minor Street and Riverside Drive improvements.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. So what this is about, as we talked about, ACC did not feel like they could meet their schedule to finish Riverside and West Minor. They came back to the city and asked if we would allow them to, with 100% completion on Riverside, meaning paving and everything, we'll let them do punch list items, and to continue to work on West Minor. If they can't get to the pavement, they'll have a shutdown on November 17th, I believe it is. And when they come back in the spring, they should be to a point that they just have to regrade and pave that road and be done. It's about 6 months past their contract date of their finish date. We know they had a pretty rough winter last year. We've had some issues with XL Energy getting their work done in there. That's kind of what the delay has been to not get it all done this year. So we have to, you know, as long as we've been working with XL Energy, we know the delays that can happen. And
But they could finish it prior to the state too, right?
They could, absolutely. They could come back and ask us if they're wanting to do a shutdown. I think that with some good weather and forecast of good weather, they'd probably come and ask us if they could go ahead and work through the summer. We could determine it at that time. Anything else? Okay, roll call.
Michael Hillman.
Yes.
Jeff Knell.
Yes.
Tracy Stokes.
Yes.
Bob Boland.
Yes.
Jack Curtis.
Yes.
All right, anybody have any other questions for Andy? City Clerk?
Mayor and Council, you have my staff report for your review with no request for action.
All right, thanks Diane. I know it's been busy for you with the election coming up and making sure everybody's doing their filings properly, so thank you very much for all your hard work. Any questions for Diane? Police Department?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I will refer you to my
chapel
report.
Congratulations to the chief.
Prior to that interruption, saying I'll refer you to my report.
No request for actions?
No.
All right.
So the police department.
All right, any questions for the chief? All right, Public Works?
Mayor and Council, I refer to my staff report. I have no request for action.
All right, thanks, John. Any questions for John? Saw him out there in the Kubota the other day, and the plow's out, and it's almost season, isn't it?
Yes,
So
it
thanks
is.
for all y'all's hard work out there. We appreciate it, John. Public Works, Dan?
Mayor and Council, I'll refer you to my staff report with no request for action.
All right. Good work down there. Thanks for sitting in tonight on the update on our CIP and everything that's going on with water and wastewater. Any questions for Dan? All right. Both John and Dan, thanks for all your hard work. Committee reports?
Just that meeting with a couple of members of Project Support and other members in the community to form a small group that would like to do presentation for Christmas caroling The date's forthcoming, we're excited about that. It's a little bit of a mismatch between our plans and what we needed to do for the senior center. We'd like to create a presentation for them that's more special this year. A lot of those people don't have relatives nearby, and we're trying to make sure that they're well served in good holiday spirit and cheer this year. So we have a group of interested people doing that.
Good, good.
Historical Society Gala this weekend.
It's gonna be this weekend. We haven't got your tickets, there's probably still some left. So if you're planning on going to the hysterical.
Hysterical.
Hysterical. I did that on purpose. Let's see, any other committee report, mayor and council, anybody else have anything to share with the audience?
I just might mention that there is a new ballot box out front. The county provided us with a new larger ballot box. It's on a pedestal, and we installed it as part of the reconstruction project for the front entrance.
And for everybody, when is the finish date for that?
They're just a couple weeks. They are fabricating the railings. They have some electrical work to do, so they expect to finish up in the next couple weeks. It's still closed off, even though it looks mostly complete. It's closed off because there's no railings in place, and they want to make sure it's safe.
So a couple more weeks, and we'll have a ADA compliant ramp and easier for folks to use. All right, thanks everybody. It is 7:35. Meeting adjourned.
Where are you?